Alrighty, welcome back everyone. Scarland here, bringing you a new Neverwinter video. Today's agenda is going to be Infernal Citadel post-combat rework changes. So the changes have now gone live on all platforms, and this was my first Infernal Citadel with the changes. So I briefly want to just talk about everything. We're going to go in depth about the changes, my own opinions and everything, and then this Infernal Citadel will just be in the background, obviously. Now, this is going to be a longer video, obviously, so hopefully I have enough things to say. I believe this is going to be about a half-hour video, most likely. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and talk about the group composition here. It's going to be me on my main, which obviously I play a Warlock. Another Warlock, Destined Moon. We have Critney Spears on a DPS Barbarian. We have Smoke Dog on his Fighter. He's going to be our tank. And then we had one of Destin's friends as our healer, and we went with the Cleric. So, yeah, everybody should be familiar with Infernal Citadel, as we've had this dungeon now for a very, very long time, right? I haven't done any testing in Tower of the Mad Mage or Zariel's Challenge. I just wanted a dungeon run, right? Not a trow, because those are different, right? I'd be switching my items in the trow compared to what I'm using here. Now, at the same time, speaking of items, silly me did not optimize this 100%. I actually have my Hallister set on, and I should be using my Dark Remnant set. So I'm already missing out on DPS just because of the Dark Remnant set. That's an important deal, right? The Dark Remnant set is 5% damage at all times, as long as you're obviously killing demons, fiends, and whatnot, devils. Where the Hallister set, obviously you have to stand still for 3 seconds to get that 5% buff. And obviously, Infernal Citadel, you can clearly see that I'm moving almost all the time. So you saw my mad dash just pop up right there briefly. But once you start moving, then there's nothing you can do about it. So yeah, that was my mistake. I didn't fully optimize. I wasn't thinking ahead of time. I just left my Hallister set on. I should have had a Dark Remnant. Just a minor mistake, right? Now, I'm not using the OP overload slots either. I'm using Dragon overload slots, so I could have gained more DPS from that, obviously, but since those are limited, overloads, I didn't want to waste them. Of course, I'm talking about the 5% damage from the Rage of Flames, and then you can either use the AP one or the HP one. Again, I was still testing things, so you're going to notice that I have a Cold Iron Warrior on. I'm not currently using an augment. I went with an active companion. And again, this is not fully optimized. This is not a companion build. I'm not using 6 Indomitables. I'm not using Warlord's Inspiration on my Mount Insignias. We were just trying a bunch of things. This was literally day 1 of the combat rework changes. So there's still plenty of optimization to go. I've now sorted that out. Now we're a couple days into the combat rework. And of course those builds will be released as well. I will release the augment build first, which is my main build. And then I probably will do a companion build separate after that. So we have a mixture of things right here. I'm basically going to compare myself to the other Warlock. Unfortunately, the Barbarian didn't really stand a chance in this dungeon. Infernal Citadel is not very melee friendly when it comes to the second boss. It's more of a ranged fight, right? So I don't want to spoil the DPS boards at the end, but let's just say the Barbarian didn't have a chance, honestly. So we're comparing Warlock to Warlock here. Now, obviously, if you guys are unfamiliar with Destined Moon, he is a top 1% endgame player, flawless, Zariel runs, etc. The whole 9 yards. He's a top 1% player. So we're going to be comparing ourselves to the other Warlock during this run. And again, like I said, we were trying different things. As in, right now, he's using an augment companion compared to I'm using an active companion. Also, you're going to notice right here, we are legitimately fighting this first boss. I wanted this run to be 100% legit. We didn't glitch this boss in the corner and just went to Pound Town on it. No, we did this legit. You're going to notice Smokey actually does die a lot in this dungeon. This was still day one. People were still trying to figure out their characters and balancing their stats. So Smokey does end up dying a few times during this run. I think I go down even a couple times. It is what it is. Again, this was day one of the rework changes. So we did our best and we went from there. So I am fully potioned, of course, because right now in the current meta, you have to use potions to even hit your stat caps. So and it just is what it is. As far as the build itself goes, like the Warlock powers and rotations, nothing really has changed with the powers and rotations. It's just about the gear and the optimization itself. I've also run Infernal Citadel a few times after this, and there's actually not that big of a difference between an augment companion and an active companion when it comes specifically to these dungeons. When you go into like Tower of the Mad Mage or Zariel, it appears that a active companion is probably going to lead to more DPS in the long run. But again, you have to fully optimize that companion as well. That's why I will have two separate builds coming out. One will be, the AoE and single target using an augment, and then the other one will be a companion build, just for certain situations. And you also have to keep in mind that a lot of people that watch these videos, you guys don't have endless supply of resources or astral diamonds or whatever. Even with the inflation coming in with the bondings, this is pretty expensive, Companion tokens right now are super high because now we have mythic companions, obviously. So everyone had to level up their companions to mythic now. So it is what it is. I mean, we mowed through the first boss. No real problems. We fought it legitimately. Like I said, we didn't glitch it in the corner. Right now, we're making our way through the ads. We're, just doing the mechanics, etc. We started off going a little slower. I honestly think we could have shaved off some time at the end and as a final result. Now, we went in here. I told these guys that I was going to record, so they were aware. But like I said, we still kind of took our time. We didn't pull all of this at once. Before the rework, we would have pulled this entire room all at once, and it wouldn't have been a problem. Now we're kind of going a little slower, a slower pace. The tank has to establish some aggro. The healer has to do his job and make sure everyone is adequately healed. But we're still plowing through the stuff pretty easily, in my opinion. Some of the feedback that I want to give is about the trash mobs. I don't agree with the changes they made that trash mobs now have combat advantage and do combat advantage damage to you. I think that's actually silly. I take a lot of damage as a DPS, even if I do scaled content, like even Shores of Tehran, Kessels, anything previous to Infernal Citadel, which, by the way, we are getting scaled down in Infernal Citadel right now. I don't know why they pushed that change through, because, Mod 20 isn't even released yet, but as it is right now, Infernal Citadel is even being scaled down as well, so we're being scaled down in here, not to our full potential. So, it is what it is, but I do not agree with the developers and why they put combat advantage on trash mobs. I think that's a little too much. Here's the death. I think this might be the only death I actually take in the dungeon, and I don't even know how it happened. Like, there was nothing around me, there wasn't anything hit me, and then all of a sudden I just died. And I believe it has something to do with the mechanics of combat advantage. So when you're doing these dungeons and you're trying to gather all of the trash mobs up at once, and not, make sure that nothing is actually behind you, it's a little difficult. And these mobs are hitting extremely hard. And the thing that I don't necessarily understand is that I have decent defense and I have decent awareness, and these mobs are still hitting me this hard. Like right there, I just got hit for 180,000, 180k coming from a trash mob, and that's like I said, I have decent defensive statistics even on my DPS, which is very hard to do because most DPS right now are just 100% glass cannon. Like, you have to rely on your tank to gain aggro, but the problem is when there are so many mobs, the tank can't get the aggro on all the mobs. And as a DPS on an AoE build, I'm hitting everything. Okay, I'm going to Pound Town on my AoE loadout, hitting everything, right? I gain so much aggro. Like, look at all the numbers on your screen. I am hitting everything, okay? And the tank can only grab aggro on, so many things at once. So having trash mobs in a dungeon do that much damage, and now they have combat advantage damage, me personally, I don't agree with that. If anything is going to have combat advantage in the game, fine, the bosses, right? Bosses in dungeons are meant to be hard. The problem I'm seeing right now is the bosses are easier than the trash mobs, especially in scaled content. Let's just take Shores of Tehran, for instance, because I run that non-stop during my testing process of stuff, and I have more trouble clearing all of the trash mobs up into the boss. And then I get into the boss, and I have no problems with the boss whatsoever. So I don't know if they need a rescaling issue or a rebalancing issue, or they need to look at the defensive statistics. I don't play a tank, so I don't know what maxed out defensive statistics look like. Like, if you have 90%, defense, 90% awareness, and whatever the case may be. But just so you guys can get an understanding of what I'm trying to explain to you, is my Warlock has around 60% awareness and somewhere around 55% defense. And I'm also using a Shadowclad as my armor enchantment. So if you're unfamiliar with the Shadowclad, it stacks deflection and defense every time you get hit. And it stacks like 8 times, I believe. Or might even stack 10 times. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. But regardless, I'm not looking for the Shadowclad for the deflection. I'm looking at the Shadowclad for the defensive procs. And it's 4% defense every time it procs, and I get hit a lot. You can see that I actually went invis right there, and that's part of the Shadowclad. If you max out proc on a Shadowclad, at the very end you turn invisible and lose all aggro. So that means that I just got at least 8 stacks times 4 of defense. So you do the math. I have a base defense of something around 55%, and then add another almost 30% defense on top of that, right? So you're talking about 85% defense, and I'm still getting just absolutely annihilated. And like I said, that's with a decent amount of awareness for a DPS character. I can't physically make my awareness any higher than it is right now currently, while actually, sacrificing offensive statistics, right? So I'm essentially still a glass cannon to a degree, but I just don't understand how the defensive statistics are working, because even though I have a pretty good core, solid defensive stat, I am still getting just absolutely dump trucked on. So like I said, I don't know if they need to maybe do another pass and look at these trash mobs in all of the dungeons and maybe scale their damage down a little bit, or I don't know what the case is. I mean, I'm not complaining. It's a challenge, and that's fine. I don't mind the challenge. We all know that they're currently working on the reward system, and right now, in my opinion, it's not even worth doing dungeons until they go ahead and, rework the rewards and everything. Because right now, I mean, you're gonna do dungeons. They're gonna take you a little bit longer than they did before, and you're still gonna get the same poopy rewards. So until they actually put the reward changes in the game, I don't plan on doing dungeons. I mean, that's just me personally. You guys can do whatever you want. But like I said, I don't understand why trash mobs have combat advantage damage. I think that needs to go away. That's my personal feedback. That's my personal opinion. It makes things harder than they need to be. And there's no reason for it. They're trash mobs, right? They're not bosses. They're literally trash mobs that you just have to clear through the dungeon to get to the boss. So I don't necessarily understand why they did that or what the point of that was. And maybe there is a reason. I don't know. You know, I don't actively talk to the developers. So the only person I talk to, obviously, is Mr. Whiteside. But I don't actively talk to the developers. I don't talk to Lasser. I don't talk to No Worries. I don't talk to those guys. So maybe there's a reason why they decided to give, every mob in the game essentially combat advantage damage. That just doesn't make sense. I think that only bosses should. I mean, you can see how badly this second boss is going. This second boss was a complete struggle bus for us. Smokey could not maintain aggro. I was pulling aggro off him non-stop. Destin was pulling aggro off of him non-stop. We actually, here's a little spoiler, we almost wipe on this. I end up having to pretty much finish it by myself. Smokey perma dies. I think the Barbarian perma dies. And then me and Destin are like trying to ping pong aggro back and forth or something here. And it's just sloppy. Once we can get this down, and once everyone gets their own personal character fully optimized, I don't see this being difficult at all. We'll probably go back to doing 20-minute Infernal Citadel runs. But it is what it is. This was our very first run through on literally day one of the changes. So there's still tweaking to be made on everyone's character and etc. But like I said, Smokey right now is just having way too much difficulty maintaining aggro. Like you can see right now, Destin has aggro. He's kiting it around. Smokey's chasing it, trying to reclaim that aggro. And it's a mess. It's a mess. And the only reason I even wanted to upload this is so I could talk about this. Because I don't play a tank. So I don't know how they're maintaining aggro. But maybe as a developer standpoint, that needs to be looked into. Okay? Just because I'm doing so much damage, well, that tells me that the tank needs to generate more threat. So I don't know specifically on the fighter. For instance, he plays a Guardian fighter, or aka a fighter. Maybe they need to increase the encounters to do more threat. So, of course, Smokey did die again. So if your tank dies, whoever has the highest aggro is going to get aggro. So that's me, right? That aggro goes immediately to me, and then Smokey has to revive, and then obviously he has to reestablish his aggro again. But throughout the whole fight, if you've been watching the video and actually watching the run in the background of me talking, then you could see that Smokey was losing aggro quite often. And I'm not blaming Smokey. It might not be Smokey's fault. Smokey knows how to play his character. He knows how to play a tank. So as a developer standpoint, that's something that needs to be looked at. Can tanks generate aggro? So here you go, actually, right here. Smokey's perma-dead. We still have a good 20%. Our tank is now dead. We have 20% HP still on the boss. I have to scroll here. We were talking about wiping, and then I said, you know what? No, let's go with it. So Smokey's perma-dead. Our tank is now gone. This is where Destin and I were screaming at each other saying, hey, listen, we're just going to have to ping-pong the aggro back and forth and kite the mob around, right? So the Barbarian, Critney Spears, is chasing. Destin just went down again, right? Because, I mean, we can't physically tank this thing. He will one-shot us. I have 2 Death Skulls. Destin has Death Skulls. Critney has Death Skulls. Our tank is perma-dead. I have aggro right now, so now I'm trying to kite it around in circles while Destin does damage to it. So, yeah, this was 100% a very sloppy run. And the only reason that I uploaded it is because, again, I wanted to talk about this. I want to give feedback about this. And ultimately, it ended up being a good run. Like, this was a very fast time in the end, which I don't want to spoil the overall time. But I don't know how we managed to do this and still get a decent time on it. Now, again, we weren't trying to speed run this. This was literally day one of the combat rework, so there was still plenty of tweaks to be made. The thing that I can feel confident about is the fact that once everyone gets optimized, once everyone figures out what they're doing again, and essentially how to play their class again, I can see Infernal Citadel runs taking no more than 20 minutes, most likely. So that was the second boss. Now we're going to finish this out here. And that's another thing I want to talk about. There's a lot of frustration, obviously, in the community right now. A lot of people are unhappy with these changes. A lot of people like these changes. There's both people on both sides of the spectrum. Some people do not like this. Other people's, are saying, yeah, this is fine, And all I can say about that argument is that everyone needs to adjust, is where it's at right now. Everyone has to adjust to the new play style. We've gone from one extreme to now something completely different. Okay, you were relying on companions. You were just walking into a dungeon. Everyone had companions on, and everything was getting slaughtered with very minimal effort. Now you actually have to play the game, and there's a lot. I think a lot of people that are upset are newer players, and the people that aren't upset are OG, old school players that remember the game how it used to be. Because this is essentially what Neverwinter was during mod 1 through, whatever, before things started getting broken and whatnot. We'll just call this mod 1 through 6. Alright, after mod 6, certain classes became broken, the game became extremely easy for many years, and then the mod 16 changes happened, and it toned us all down a little bit. But then the power creep slowly started again, companions became best in slot, and we started slaughtering everything again. So what happened is basically they refreshed the whole game. So now this is essentially a new game that everybody has to learn. You have to learn the mechanics of the dungeons you're doing now. You can't just walk in there and one phase the boss anymore and bypass all of his mechanics. That's not happening. Okay, not right now at least. It might happen again in the future once we become more powerful again. But as it sits right now, you have to do the mechanics. And if you don't know the mechanics, then you have to learn the mechanics. You can't just walk in with your 5 Zunas or your 5 chickens and just slaughter everything. The trash mobs do more damage. The trash mobs have more HP. And well, it's not that the trash mobs necessarily have more HP, it's that our characters are doing less damage than they were doing before. So here we come up to the last boss, and again, this was challenging because we were, before walking in here and just rinsing stuff. I'm actually in the lead ahead of Destin right now by about 1.1 million. Critney's way down there at 57. Well, not way down there. I mean, Critney's, around the ballpark. I'm at 66 million. The Barbarian's at 57. So it is what it is. Destin will ultimately pull ahead of me here. I didn't do my rotations correctly and whatnot. And like I said, I'm using an active companion. He's using an augmented companion right now. I wanted to compare the differences and see what's going on. Again, my companion isn't fully optimized for this to begin with. I was just testing stuff around and seeing what happened. So we're going to come into the last boss here. I don't want to get too off track, but like I said, people need to, adjust. You need to adapt and adjust. The game has gone over a major overhaul. It needed to be done, and that's all I have to say about it. Do I personally like the changes? I'm enjoying them. It makes things a lot more fun than just walking in there with a companion and slaughtering everything. Now, what needs to happen, obviously, are the rewards, and that is in the works. So once the reward system gets redone and we're actually getting, rewarded for the time spent, then I think a lot of people are going to be more pleased than they are right now. But yeah, when it comes down to it, there's a learning curve. You have newer players out there that had no idea how to play their class properly, and they were just relying on a companion to do all their damage. You can't do that anymore. You have to learn how to play your character properly. You have to learn the dungeon mechanics. You have to learn the boss mechanics. And some people don't want to do that, whether they're lazy or they just wanted the easy mode or whatever the case may be. You can't please everyone. You can't have a 100% happy audience, right? There are going to be people that don't like it. There are going to be people that quit the game over this. I mean, that's personal. If you don't like the game, then don't play the game. I mean, it's a video game. Video games are meant for enjoyment and entertainment. So if you're not having a good time, then why do it? So it is what it is. You know, you're either going to adapt to the changes, learn how to properly play, and then you might actually enjoy it, or you can be, you know, just Mr. Sadface and, you know, go ahead and quit. I mean, I don't know what to do. You know, if you're on Xbox, make sure to hit me up. I'll buy your stuff. You know, what do you want me to say? This is something that needed to happen. This is probably what should have happened in Mod 16, and they just didn't get it done properly, or whatever the case may be on the backside of the company aspect of the things. But this should have happened a long time ago. But we can't dwell on the past. We're in the present now. This is where we're at. This is the new Neverwinter, and now they can improve on the system going forward. This is just the framework of what's to come. So now they can, you know, tweak things that need to be tweaked. They can balance things that need to be balanced, etc., etc., etc. And then going forward, we'll see what happens. So we're coming down here to the nitty gritty. He's got about 30% HP. Like I said, I messed up my rotations a couple times. I was too focused on the mechanics to even worry about rotations to begin with. But as far as the Warlock goes, we feel really, really good. Okay, and this is coming from a person that's played a Warlock now for, you know, a very, very long time. It feels really good. It feels a lot better than what we just had. I can see significant increase in damage, significant increase in our AP regeneration. It's just across the board, the Warlock to me feels 100 times better than what we just had recently. So again, once you optimize your character and everything, you'll start to slowly see that as well. Again, I will release the builds very soon, depending on when this video gets released and when I release the builds and everything. So look forward to that. If you're a Warlock out there and you're kind of struggling right now, you don't know how to balance your stats, you don't know what you're doing, the build and the guide will be coming very shortly. I want to get all that information out there to you guys. If you play a different class, you're going to have to rely on a different content creator. It's always been like that. I don't do multiple classes, you know. DPS are pretty much running the same thing, but there are slight differences. So, I mean, you have to look for a content creator that specifically plays your class. Because even to this day, I still get questions about other classes, and I don't feel comfortable answering them because I don't play that class. So, Warlocks of my channel, don't worry, I got you guys. The build is amazing. We'll look here at the damage here. We'll pop it up. So here's the final run. It was 27 minutes, 42 seconds, but it was about 27 minutes because we had a few pauses in the dungeon and cutscenes and whatnot. It's about a 27-minute run. Destin did pull ahead of me, 99 million to my 94. Again, this is what I wanted to compare. I wanted to see Augment versus Summoned. Mine again was not fully optimized as a summon companion. It was just a summon companion with all my gear the same. This was without Indomitables. This is without Warlord's Inspiration, etc. But it's close enough to know that Warlock's looking pretty good. Again, Critney Spears is playing a Barbarian. 75 million. It's still good. 75 million is still good. Again, this dungeon, Infernal Citadel, is not very melee friendly. That second boss is atrocious, especially for melee. You have to literally chase it around. It's not a good time. So you can't really compare a Barbarian to the Warlock in this actual dungeon. You know, I'm just saying, Warlock is definitely feeling good. It's feeling good. I'm very pleased with it right now. Of course, it needs tweaks. It always needs tweaks. There's always something that needs tweaked, right? I'm not saying the Warlock right now is 100% perfect. There are things that do need maybe adjusted a little bit and tweaked a little bit, as well as the game stuff. Like I said, I think trash mobs in all of the dungeons are hitting way too hard. And the combat advantage damage is most likely the reason for that. And even with my high defensive statistics, I feel like I'm still taking a lot more damage than I should be. So, not too bad of a run overall here. Like I said, I'm really enjoying where the Warlock is. Those guides will be available here shortly. So about a 27-minute run is not too shabby for day one of the rework. Like I said, I'll reiterate, I feel very confident that once everyone gets their characters optimized, everyone's on the same page, and everyone's ready to party, we should have no problem doing Infernal Citadel in like 20 minutes, 21 minutes, 22 minutes. You know, very quick runs, just like we were doing previous to the combat rework. So that's about what I got for you guys. I know it's a little longer of a video, but I just wanted to throw a video on my channel of highlighting the build before I release the build, so you can expect that. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and leave them below. I did pull a necklace here, and then I immediately sold it for 400,000 AD, so that's a win right there, right? It doesn't happen very often, but this was a win. So, and I got 2 companion tokens on top of the necklace, so that's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you did enjoy the video. Remember to smash that thumbs up button. It really helps the YouTube algorithm. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, leave them below. Build will come out very soon, probably within the next few days. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, guys. I'll see you guys real soon.